Well, Karen, thank you for joining us, and here we are, another IMEX again. They all come around so quickly. But obviously there's a lot of talk about travel and disruption and all things that are going on at the moment, especially not just within the Middle East, but in the US as well. So the US group travel report that you published just this week was entitled "Strength Beneath the Surface."
Right.
So I mean, careful choice of words. But what does that mean exactly? What are you worried about? Where should the business events be sitting on right now? Where are we?
Yeah, fair question. Strength beneath the surface is a reference to perception and the power of kind of not doing your homework to really understand what's going on behind a headline, for example, behind kind of like what you might be aware of but not really have the details. And the industry in the US in 2025, so travel and events in 2025 in the US, was not what we were hoping for. We were hoping that it was going to be this growth year, this clear recovery from the pandemic, and it wasn't that. It also wasn't nearly as bad as some people might think it was. It was basically a flat year. This report was really to establish a perspective that says, look, we had high expectations going into 2025 because, look, coming out of 2024, it was a strong year. And, there were some things that made 2025 be more of a flat year. International travel into the US was slightly down, particularly from Canada. That's where our most acute issue is. But we look overall, domestic attendance was up at some shows. It was down at others. It was basically a flat year, which to us was good news. And so strength beneath the surface is really just a reference to, it was uneven, but it was overall a much better year than people were kind of feeling, and so we wanted to kind of level set a bit on on the reality of how things are relative to maybe how people are feeling. People are feeling a little anxious, or they're feeling unsure. Our sector, still showed up pretty well in 2025.
And what is the cost in the drop of say the Canadian business in particular? Can you put a figure against that?
Oh, our head of research definitely has on what that represents. I mean, it's our number one customer, and so that's overall travel into the U.S. from Canada was down, almost 25%. So it's significant. That hurts.
Yeah, significant. Yeah.
But I would also say there were also 16 million visitors from Canada last year. So it's still it's our number 2 market after Mexico now. So also this strength beneath the surface. Canada was down, Mexico was up. There's this, things shift over time, right? And so yes, that's been harmful to the industry for sure to have that kind of drop from Canada.
Yeah, and your report shows that the volumes for non-government meetings are exceeding 2019 levels.
It was the RFP demand or RFP activity. So kind of like volume of business through the system exceeded 2019. So in some respects, maybe we did have a recovery because we've now exceeded, hopefully we won't be comparing against 2019 for too much longer. And because it's a long time ago now. I know it was before the pandemic, but we want to be able to really establish some new baselines. And so for us, looking at RFP volume being ahead of where it was another indicator of kind of sustained demand and just the strength of this of the group market in the U.S.
I know. I mean, it just shows the resilience of our market. I mean, whatever's thrown at us, but hopefully we seem to bounce back every time, and hopefully it'll happen obviously with the U.S. market as well, with Canada in particular.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we will, and we're seeing growth in other markets. So it's not we want to trade one for the other. We want them all to rise. I mean, global M.I.C.E business last year grew 8%. Right, according to the World Travel and Tourism Council. We didn't realize that. Obviously, other countries have realized gains. So we don't want to be flat, but especially in a market that's growing. So we've got some work to do to recover that and to build a strong.
Yeah, and is the current administrator's policy on your visas, you have travel bans and extended wait times for visa, but has that had much of an impact at all, or is that one of the reasons why things are slow?
I'd say there is, those are different elements. So if we kind of parse them maybe just a little bit. So look, travel bans, we don't like them, don't support them, and think they're just bad policy. But they also represent, in totality, like less than 1% of visitation into the U.S. So we have to decide where are we going to focus our time, resources, and efforts to help grow the industry. And so while we don't like that those are in place, and actually they've been suspended to some degree for the World Cup. This was announced last week. So that shows some degree of recognition of the importance of this moment that we have with the World Cup. But there's other visa issues that are actually moving in the right direction. Visa wait times are actually coming down in some of the most acute countries like India and Colombia, partially because we're investing in capacity in those places. There's a new fee that's not been approved, but it was part of a bill that Congress passed last year, so I should say it's been approved but not implemented, called the Visa Integrity Fee. So if you're required to get a visa, it would cost another $250. That's a lot. That would make us the most expensive country after Bhutan to visit. And then lastly, I would say this, there was a rule that was proposed late last year about visitors from the visa waiver countries having to provide social media accounts as part of their ESTA application. There was a lot of feedback from our members and the industry on how harmful that could be, particularly to events, because a lot of the attendees at a lot of the events that take place in the US are coming from visa waiver country programs. And so we're in Germany now. The Germans have no interest in sharing their social media accounts. That would be a real barrier that we don't want to go in place. So Customs and Border Protection is taking all this feedback and will be coming up with a revised proposal that we'll then respond to. So in totality, when rules are changing, it creates some confusion for people. Is this in place? Is this not in place? And our job has been to honestly try to delay these things as much as possible.
How do you overcome that perception, though? It's quite difficult to get rid of that stigma. How long will that take? Or it's
So I've noticed that here, so this year, 2026, I'm not having the same questions that I was getting a year ago. So that doesn't mean that people aren't concerned, but it may not be as much of a concern. Honestly, that's why I'm here, is to try to provide real-time information. We put out resources about the facts of preparing to enter and visiting the U.S. so that people have accurate information. And so that's part of our job.
And I mean, China's expanding its visa-free waiver to over 70 countries and marketing itself as the number one meetings destination. So I mean, is that a risk for yourself to consider at all, or that sort of other countries are offering visa-free opportunities?
So we have 42 countries, so we're not quite there. We're hopefully adding Argentina as a 43rd country, soon. But we've got a ways to go with the visa waiver program. I mean, these are great programs that are in place. We should have more of them. We are advocating for that. One of the reasons why we don't have them is we're not using ways to track overstays as well as we could, and that's a big concern. And so we are looking at using biometrics in the exit and entry processes, would actually allow us to track overstays much more effectively, which would enable us then to increase the number of countries in the visa waiver program. So our team is actively working on that type of, advocating for that type of technology being used, because that would lead to more countries that have, that agreement with us. But, we've got a ways to go for sure. It's a competitive market, right? I mean, it's about facilities. I mean, we're in this amazing building here in Frankfurt. There's great buildings all over the world, right? So certainly infrastructure is a big part of it. Airports, convention centers, but also people are looking for, authentic experiences, and so they look for different places.
And the conflict in the Middle East. I mean, has that caused any disruption to your sales, or has there been an opportunity for you to sort of get some of that business that's happened? That's obviously the Middle East has lost.
Yeah, I don't know that it's been. I can't say that it's been an opportunity for us to gain any business. I think there's been some displacements of different events. I think probably Europe has maybe gained some of that business. I was just on a panel with someone from the Ministry of Tourism in the UAE talking about, they are, focused on delaying some of that business until later this year, which may put some pressure on Q3 and Q4. But I can't say that we've, gained anything that I've heard of or that we've been able to track as a consequence of that.
Yeah, it certainly is a challenging time, that's for sure.
It is. Hopefully there will be resolution to this. We're concerned about, fuel prices for flying, and also just not just for airlines, but for fuel prices overall. So I mean, it's hopefully.
And are we seeing with the airlines, are they generally still operating as the same number of flights coming into the US or even more? Yeah,
I mean, there haven't been significant flight pattern changes that I'm aware of. We'll see. This is now we're in the middle of Q2. They had a very strong first quarter of the year, so we'll kind of see. Fuel is a big part of their cost basis, so they may have to make those changes, but we haven't seen a lot of it yet.
Yeah, and your report is very generally optimistic about 2026, and is there a genuine confidence in what lies ahead? I know the World Cup's obviously going to add, is going to contribute towards that.
I think the World Cup gives us an opportunity to really kind of showcase the importance of global gatherings on a big stage, right? Sport gives us that opportunity, so yes, I mean, we're excited about that. And whatever the projections were 10 years ago of what this was going to bring in terms of international visitation, whatever it is, we may not achieve those lofty goals, but it's going to be an amazing summer in the U.S. And there's a lot of excitement, and it's for us in the events industry, gives us a chance to talk about the importance of our industry, travel, meeting together in person, power of connections, international travel. So it gives us a platform, kind of the leverage that it's honestly given us with this administration around the importance of our industry's contribution to things like economic growth, international relations, things like that. So I remain optimistic, partially because of this being an important event that's taking place, but also as people are feeling more, disconnected, isolated, especially young people. Our industry is like the antidote to that. We provide the chance for people to be like, oh, I know this is real because I'm sitting across the table from Ian, and there's a real shortage of that for many people, and young people in particular. They want a digital detox. We're kind of providing a way for people to feel connected to something and to someone, and so. For that reason, also business leaders really understand that there's certain things that they need to do that can only be done in person. And so that gives us a lot of optimism.
I mean, and even coming into this year, you couldn't have predicted what was going to happen. And what's actually currently going on in terms of the US is involved in the Middle East. So what kind of challenge does that offer you then? How does that change in terms of the way you think and what you have to report back to your members, if you like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's always, we operate in a dynamic environment. Anything bad that happens in any way, whether it's weather, war, pandemic, right? It's bad for our business. It just is. I mean, there's a lot of things that are outside of our control that directly impact people's ability to hold a meeting, attend a meeting, and so I would say our responsibility is to share information with our members in real time so they can make the best possible business decisions, to be able to have the context for what's going on, so that we can collectively be a voice for the power of our industry, whether it's travel, events, and so our role is really to help provide some of that translation, because sometimes people just don't have the time to know about how policies are being enacted and what it means for the business. So our job is to provide that information, also to be an exchange of information from our members to people that are setting policy that impact our industry.
Yeah, because you heard last year there was a few issues with connectivity, etc., going through certain cities and traveling through the US. Has that all been cleared up now in terms of the people flying in internationally, maybe connecting via Houston, for example? There was a few issues there connecting last year. I think it was due to start with cuts in federal.
Yeah. So yes. So Houston was particularly had faced particularly long wait times to get through passenger screening. I think is what you're talking about.
Yes.
So the Department of Homeland Security, within that is the Transportation Security Administration, or the TSA. Those are the people that handle domestic screening. And so, they handle screening for international passengers too. But there was a shutdown of that agency for 70 days. So those folks, in some cases, many of them, still showed up for work. But they also lost a lot of their staff because they looked after. That's over 2 months of working without pay. Like they found other jobs. Thankfully, that's been addressed. That shutdown is over, and so what we're advocating now is that in future shutdowns, we can't control that happening, disagreements over political differences. But our industry shouldn't have to be kind of put right in the middle of that. These folks, whether they're air traffic controllers or TSA officers, shouldn't be subject to having to show up for work when they're not getting paid because of shutdown.
Absolutely. So, there's a lot of optimism with regards to the World Cup, and there's the you're obviously 250 years old in terms of America, that is, of course. 2028 the Olympics coming up to LA.
Yes.
So there's a lot of optimism in terms of the traffic and travel that should be coming into the US. What do you need from the policymakers right now in the US so they don't fumble these, as you say, once in a generation moments?
Yeah, I think that we need collaboration. We need their open communication. So we released a report last year, and it was our Commission on Seamless and Secure Travel. And there were a number of recommendations in that report. And one of them was to form a task force for the World Cup, a presidential task force, because in our industry, it requires collaboration across multiple government agencies, State Department, Commerce Department, Transportation Department, right? And so for people to have a seamless and secure experience when they're, say, arriving into Gateway Airport, right, and they're transferring. So we need a good partnership with our elected officials and the administration. That'll never change. We'll always need that. And in some ways, we've had some real great collaboration. We've had investments in infrastructure that are 20 years too late, but they're still happening. We want them to see our industry as essential, not just as something that they, see as they travel, so they understand that we're an industry. We want them to see us as contributors to the economy. We want them to see us as important to their districts, because there are people working in jobs in our industry, to really kind of broaden the appreciation, understanding, and support for what we're doing. And that is what we exist to do every day, is to bring the issues that our members are facing to the administration and to members of Congress, so that they can do things that aren't making it harder, and ideally helping us to grow this industry, which when travel grows, the economy grows, right? International inbound travel to the US used to be a service export. There was more money being spent by international travelers coming in than those of us living in the US traveling internationally. That's reversed. And so we want to work with certainly the government and the industry to make sure that we get back to at least an even. What we'd like to get back to a surplus. This isn't, if we want to grow our economy, or any economy, like this industry, we're kind of part of the solution,
Absolutely,
yeah. Sometimes people don't see us as an industry, they don't see us as a profession, they don't take us seriously. So what do we want people to do? We want people to kind of take us seriously, and that requires us to talk in economic terms, but also requires us to talk in kind of like, how are we helping the destinations and society kind of evolve? How are we contributing to innovations through events how are cities being able to showcase their assets through hosting meetings and events. We want to expand the conversation beyond just economic impact and jobs to really be seen as we are the ways in which cities grow, economies grow, people grow their careers, and that is an opportunity for us to do more in partnership with, certainly with government, not just in the US, but around the world.
Yeah. Are you in dialogue quite regularly with like Brand USA and all the CVBs around the US as well in terms of?
Yeah, so Brand USA, we have a very close partnership with them. So part of our role with Brand USA is that we will always lobby on their behalf so that their funding is approved. They experienced a cut in their funding last year, which we're looking to restore, and we're pretty confident that we will have the support to be able to do that. There will be a reauthorization for Brand USA in a couple years. We're working on that already, laying the groundwork for this continued support and investment in the essential role that Brand USA plays in promoting visitation into the US, right? DMOs around the country are members of ours, so we work very closely with them. I run a group called the Group Travel Network, and within that, the chief sales officers of the DMOs are directly working with me around an advocacy campaign for the value of meeting in person. So it's a very close, it's very highly collaborative work, and that's partially why I feel optimistic, Ian, is that people want the product that we are selling as an industry. We just want to make it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely, I always enjoy going over. So, but Glove, thank you. I appreciate you giving us an update and what's happening at the moment and the positive outlook, which is good. And yeah, looking forward to catching the World Cup, that's for sure.
Are you coming to it?
No, I won't be, but I'll be watching it on my TV at some point. But yeah, hopefully it'll be a successful event.
Yeah, well, it is a moment that we want to make sure we capitalize as an industry, and then the storytelling that goes with that is going to be really, really important. So, what's that narrative that we are sharing, and how do we show up? And so people go back to wherever they came from and talk about their amazing experience. We talked about perceptions earlier. That is a great way for us to be able to maybe offset some of the perceptions that people have, and so it's a great opportunity.
I imagine it does, but US Travel Association is not just obviously flights, it's cruise ships and trains and all that.
Sure.
It involves all of that, so you've got to monitor all that kind of travel too.
Yeah, I mean, surface transportation is certainly an area of focus. We want more investment in making it easier for people to, not everybody gets on an airplane to go on a trip. So yeah, so there will be, we will measure as much as we can, whether through our own efforts or other industry efforts, to make sure that we've got a really good sense of the impact of World Cup for sure. Yeah.
Super, thanks Kevin.
Yeah, thanks,
appreciate it. No, thanks for coming over, and look forward to seeing you next week as well.
Sounds great.
Brilliant,
Thanks
super,
so much.
thank you.